I always thought the worst thing a child could do was forget your birthday. Turns out it's not. The worst thing is being told you don't belong in the house you built with the two hands that raised her. I remember it like it just happened, because memories like that, they sink into your bones. They don't fade with time, they sharpen. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind of day you don't expect your world to shift. Clouds rolled soft over the Denver sky, and I had just watered Ellen's lilies. Funny how something so peaceful could come right before the storm. My daughter Clara had stopped by, just before her vacation with Mark, her husband, to Cancun. She was in a rush, suitcase already by the door, sunglasses on her head. Even the way she kissed my cheek felt distracted, like obligation, not affection. "I left food in the fridge, Dad," she said, patting my shoulder like I was a tenant in my own home. "And remember, the lawn service comes Tuesday. Just stay out of their way, okay?" Stay out of their way? You see, Clara moved in with me months after Ellen passed. She said it was temporary, until they found their own place. But the boxes stayed, and Mark came too. Somehow, in just under a year, they'd made the house feel less like home to me and more like something I was watching fade into theirs. But I didn't complain. Not once. Because that's what fathers do. We bite our tongues. We pay bills. We keep the engine running even when there's no thank you at the end of the ride. That Sunday evening, Clara had a call coming in. Mark, I assume. She stepped into the hallway and answered it. She didn't think I could hear, but she forgot we had vents in the old entry wall. Ones that carry sound even when the door is half shut. And what I heard was much louder than her voice. "Relax. The house was always Mom's, not Dad's. Once we redo the deed, he'll understand. I mean, it feels more like mine already anyway." Silence. I thought surely I misheard. Surely my daughter couldn't say something like that. Not after everything. But then she laughed. That little dismissive laugh people use when they're perfectly sure the other person is useless. I froze behind the hallway wall. My hand rested on the family photo that still hung there, the one where Clara was 6, missing a front tooth. My knuckles gripped the edge of the frame. She thinks the house was always Ellen's. Like I didn't sand the floors on my knees at midnight to afford it. Like I didn't take out 2 loans and 3 jobs. Like I didn't earn every damn nail in this foundation. And even worse than what she said was what she didn't say. She didn't say, "Dad built this house." She didn't say, "We grew up here because of his work." She didn't say, "My father deserves to rest here as long as he wants." She saw me as a guest in what I built. And I knew then that if they saw me as a guest, I'd act like one. And when guests leave, they take their keys. Or better yet, they take the whole house with them. Calm voice. Music slowly shifts to a thoughtful, slightly darker tone. I didn't say anything to Clara at the moment. No fight. No raised voice. I simply smiled when she kissed my cheek goodbye and waved her toward the airport shuttle. But the second the door closed behind her, I sat down and began to plan. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you've ever felt like you're living in a home that no longer feels like yours, hit that subscribe button. That night after Clara left, I didn't turn on the TV, didn't make coffee, didn't sit down in my recliner the way I always did. Instead, I went to the hall closet, the one under the stairs. Behind the old coats and Ellen's flower print umbrella she never used, was a little black fireproof box. And inside that box, every receipt, every sketch, every document tied to this house for the last 29 years. I laid everything across the dining table Clara said needed to be modernized. The same one where she'd spilled her juice as a toddler. The one Ellen sanded and stained with her own hands. And I flipped through those papers like a surgeon reviewing x-rays. Because what Clara seemed to forget was that long before this house belonged to Mom, this house was only a drawing, then a permit, then a lonely construction site where I poured every ounce of myself. Brick by brick, board by board, every piece told a story. The permit approval sheet, dated March 3, 1994, the first Home Depot receipt, $782. 34. I still remember, because I cried that night thinking we wouldn't afford drywall, the warranty receipt for the custom windows. Ellen loved the letter from the bank saying our final home payment was complete, and finally, the house title, in my name only. Signed by the notary. That cold morning Ellen brought me cocoa instead of coffee and said, "It's ours, Roy. Finally ours." I pulled out an old shoebox full of Polaroids Ellen insisted on keeping. Photos of us in hard hats standing in a foundation pit. Little Clara holding a hammer twice her size. Ellen smiling in a sundress, leaning against an unfinished porch railing. This house wasn't just Mom's. This house was our marriage. This house was my life's work. And now my daughter wanted to shovel dirt over it like I was already gone. That night, I sat at the kitchen table till 3 a.m. with a small desk lamp shining across blueprints and ledger books. My bones ached, not from age, from grief. And not just because of what Clara said, but because I let her forget. Let her forget what was put into this home, what it cost, who I used to be before I became the quiet, harmless old man in the guest room. No more silence. The next morning I shaved, put on my nice slacks, the ones Ellen used to press on special occasions. And I drove not to the lawyer, not yet, but to the garden out back. Because if I was going to walk away from this house, I was going to do it like a man, with respect, with gratitude, and a little goodbye. I sat by Ellen's favorite rose bush, the one she talked to when she thought I wasn't listening. And I said, "I'm sorry I let our girl forget. I loved her so much I forgot who I was without her. But don't worry, honey. I remember now." The wind moved through the trees like she was answering. That afternoon, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in almost 4 years. A friend of mine, Michael Dugan, real estate lawyer. Retired, but still sharp. Still owed me a favor from way back. "Roy, haven't heard your gravel voice in years. You moving somewhere?" "No, Mike. I'm thinking of letting go of the house." "Your house? What happened?" "Let's just say, somebody thinks it was never mine." He paused for a long time, then said, "Come by first thing tomorrow. I'll draw the papers up however you want." "You doing this for revenge?" "No," I said. "I'm doing it for closure. But deep down, maybe a little revenge too. Because there's something poetic about watching the people who never saw your value realize too late that you always held the deed." I arrived at Michael Dugan's office the next morning at 9:01 a.m. Sharp. He was already waiting, legal pad in hand, wearing those same crooked wireframe glasses he'd worn in courtrooms for 30 years. "You're really doing this?" "I already have." "You told her?" he asked. I looked him square in the eye. "No, and I won't. Let the lock speak for me." He chuckled low and slow. "You always were quiet with your payback, Roy. That's what made it sting more." Through the window, the city moved like background noise. Children in school buses, couples on restaurant patios. While I signed away the place where my wife and I had grown our lives, Michael guided me through every line. Authorization to sell, emergency title clearance, disclosure waivers, 30-day post-sale access clause, transfer of funds agreement to my private trust account by 11:47 a.m. The papers were filed with the title agency. At 2:06 p.m. Brian Connor, a top real estate agent recommended by Michael's assistant, had already arrived at my driveway. Trim suit, leather briefcase, smile that could sell a fence to the man who laid it. "Mr. Hayes, this place is immaculate. You've kept it better than most new homes I've listed. I could sell this in a heartbeat. I need it listed now. Cash buyer. Quiet sale. No signs on the lawn. You understand?" He nodded. "You want it sold before someone sees?" I answered with a line Clara had once used on me when she kicked me out of a family dinner because the baby needed quiet. "It's better this way." The next 4 days moved like a war plan. I packed only the things that mattered. Ellen's wedding ring, my watch from retirement day. The one Clara had said looked too cheap to pass down, photo albums, marriage license, the letter Ellen wrote me when she found out about her illness. Tucked between an old anniversary card and her medical papers, everything else? Left it. Let them feel the echo of absence in every room. The cash buyer came from out of state. Liked the bones of the place. Didn't negotiate. Full price offer in 48 hours. $894,000. Clean. Final. Funded. By day 6, the house transfer was scheduled. By day 7, a locksmith came at sunset and changed all the locks. Brass to steel, charm to certainty. When he handed me the new set of keys, I held them like medals. Not of honor, of liberation. I lit a single candle in Ellen's favorite bay window that night, surrounded by empty furniture and old memories folded into boxes. I sat in her chair one last time, looked around. "It's yours now, honey," I whispered. "You'd be proud of what's next." The letter before I left the next morning. I taped a white envelope inside the front door, right at eye level. No missing it. In my neatest handwriting, I wrote, "For Clara and Mark." Dad, inside was a simple letter, just a single page. Play button letter, as read by narrator Clara. "You said to your husband, the house always felt like Mom's, not Dad's. You were right. It was hers. Which meant it deserved better than becoming your vacation talking point or your leverage in whatever growing sense of entitlement you've decided to live by. This house was never yours. You didn't pay for the roof. You didn't paint its walls. You lived here like all children do, cradled in someone else's sacrifice. So I took it back. I sold it, locked it, let it go. Your things? You'll find them at Midtown Storage on 5th Avenue. Unit number 121. You have 15 days before the rental policy repurposes the items. Clara, love isn't endless when it's one way. Respect is earned, not assumed. I walked away from a house so you might walk toward humility. I hope sincerely that it finds you. Dad, Friday, 4:18 p.m. Mark's black SUV pulled into the front driveway. Luggage in the trunk. Sunglasses on his head. Mismatched energy. Clara stepped out, smiling wide, keys already in her hand, until the key wouldn't turn. She tried 3 times. Stopped. Looked around like something was broken. Mark tried next. His turn failed, too. They knocked. Waited 30 seconds. Saw the envelope. And everything changed. I watched it all unfold from my phone screen. The real-time security feed from the tiny camera I'd hidden near the foyer. Same spot Ellen used to hang our family's Christmas stockings. It was like watching a memory unravel in reverse. First came confusion. Then disbelief. Then the kind of quiet, creeping panic that no amount of entitlement can cushion. Film frames on the screen. Clara held the envelope like it weighed 100 pounds. As she read, her forehead furrowed more deeply with each sentence. She passed the letter to Mark. He didn't even make it halfway before muttering, "He sold it. He actually sold the damn house." Clara sat down right there on the floor, bags still packed behind her. And for the first time in years, she cried. Not the deal fell through tears, not the bad day kind. These were the fragile, broken gasps of real impact, of consequences landing where entitlement used to live. I didn't smile. I didn't laugh. Because revenge wasn't the victory. Peace was. And for the first time in a long time, I had it. My phone buzzed. Then again. And again. No name. Then, Clara. Missed call Clara. 3 new messages, unknown number. 6 times I didn't check a single one. I had moved into a quiet retirement apartment just outside Highlands Ranch. It wasn't big, but it was mine. 1 small recliner. Tea kettle that worked on demand. Ellen's photo by the window that overlooked a little garden patch, where I'd started planting green beans just like she used to. Peace doesn't need chandeliers. It just needs absence of begging to be respected. I did get 1 voicemail I listened to. From Clara. She didn't yell. Didn't threaten. Didn't blame me. Her voice cracked around the edges like the girl I once knew, before time and pride hardened her into someone else. Dad. I made a mistake. I forgot. I forgot who made this family what it is. I forgot what it cost you. I was angry. And I was wrong. If you can find it in your heart, I want to talk. If not, I understand. And I'm sorry. I didn't reply right away. Not because I was angry, but because healing doesn't begin with words. It begins when someone chooses silence over control. Would I forgive her? of course. But forgiveness doesn't mean undoing what must be done. 2 weeks later, I got a letter, handwritten. No demands. No manipulation. Just truth. She said she'd been sitting in her tiny rental, surrounded by boxes of things she suddenly realized weren't built by her. She said she missed Ellen. She said she never truly understood how hard it is to build something from scratch and watch others think they're entitled to inherit the throne. We had coffee last Sunday. Neutral place. Long conversation. I could see the shame in her eyes, and for once, I didn't fill the silence to make her comfortable. She sat in the awkward truth she created. But when she reached across the table, held my hand, and whispered, "I don't need the house, Dad. I just need my father." That was enough for now. And me? I now sit in a smaller home. Yes, but not a smaller life. Because what I lost were walls. What I found was peace. And the dignity that comes when you finally stop feeding people who call your hands disposable. So, if you're watching this and you've ever been pushed out, disrespected, or treated like a placeholder in your own legacy, let this story remind you, you are not the burden. You are the foundation. And foundations should not have to beg for credit or a seat at the table they built. Please subscribe if this story touched you. And in the comments, tell me, world map, where are you watching from? And have you ever had to walk away to be respected again? This is Roy Hayes signing off with a full bank balance, planted garden, and one front door that only opens when there's real love on the other side.